Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Before I get into any of the whole main stuff of this video, let me give a quick shout out to the Pluribus Project. It's a YouTube channel where someone by the name of Charles Clark keeps an eye on the American Empire. I think it's a slogan. He's, another progressive indie news person. So, yeah, I did a little interview with him, and, well, you'll go see it at one point in the future. I'll include, a card of his stuff on the side, and links to his Patreon and stuff in the description. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that. With that out of the way, let's get right into the news. The first one comes from Iowa's favorite Republican, I guess, Steve King. This one may be well known at this point, but for those who don't know, let me give you the quote itself, which is the big thing. Steve King was asked at a rally of his, hey, why do you not support at least giving people who were raped or were in the product of incest the right to an abortion? And he had this to say in response.
What if we went back through all the family trees and just pulled those people out that were products of rape and incest? Would there be any population of the world left if we did that? Considering all the wars and all the rape and pillage that's taken place and whatever happened in culture after society, I know I can't certify that they're not a part of a product of that.
Oh boy, that is an interesting take. Now, to be fair, to play devil's advocate here, I mean, snap your fingers and get rid of all of the products of rape and incest. You'll get some people are gonna disappear, but I would argue that, maybe you're saying, if a woman is raped, actually raped, and then she goes, she gets raped, and then you just go, yeah, I know you were raped, you were forced to have this child, you did not want this child, and you have no intention of taking care of this child, you're gonna have to bring that baby to term. Steve, what the fuck? This is just terrible. It's a terrible take. This is stupid. But anyways, let's move on to a more lighthearted story. Israeli decision on Omar and Tlaib inflames politics in two countries. Under intense pressure from President Trump, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government on Thursday barred two members of the United States Congress from entering Israel for an official visit, reversing a previous decision to admit two of the president's most outspoken critics. But on Friday, Israel said that one of the congresswomen, Representative Rashida Tlaib, could enter humanitarian grounds so that she could see her 90-year-old grandmother after she promised not to promote boycotts during her stay. But then Rashida Tlaib turned them down because they were also saying oh, you couldn't, go to Palestinian territory because that's where they wanted to go. But Rashida and Omar decided that they were going to take a stand. And to be fair, I wouldn't even go to Israel anyways. No offense to Israelis, but I don't want to go to a fucking war zone. I would 100% be happy just being in the United States while criticizing the Israeli government because I'm in the safety of my own home. Okay? That's where I stand. But I understand where Rashida and Omar are coming from. They want to go to the Palestinian territories and, advocate on their home turf. And that's leading into a lot of the whole debacle mentioned here because, Israel is pretty much the United States' bitch, pretty much. No, wait, we're Israel and Saudi Arabia's bitch. But, it's pretty much how it's been for a while, and we're not really going to change unless we get a president that actually does not like Israel. Well, I mean, I guess technically, at least not like Netanyahu or in the Likud. We'd have to get a more open person to a two-state solution, or someone in that regard, like the Meretz, or even the Labor Party of Israel to an extent. But anyways, the next story is coming from Massachusetts. Joseph Kennedy III is said to be eyeing Edward Markey's Massachusetts Senate seat. Representative Joseph P. Kennedy of Massachusetts is considering a primary challenge next year against Senator Edward J. Markey, according to a senior Democratic official. Such a race could substantially alter the state's political landscape and has the potential of elevating a fourth member of the Democratic dynasty to the Senate. Mr. Kennedy, the grandson of Robert F. Kennedy, had publicly indicated that he intended to run for re-election next year, but in a conversation this week with a Democratic official who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss private deliberations, Mr. Kennedy said that he was weighing a campaign against Mr. Markey and would decide in the coming weeks. Now, here's my critical and smart political analysis using data and all this other stuff. Okay? No. Just no. I will not stand for this. Joseph Kennedy III, get the fuck out of the House of Representatives and go home. Nobody cares about you. The only thing remarkable about you, Joe, is that you're the only Kennedy that hasn't died. That's you. That's your thing. That's your claim to fame right now. You're the only Kennedy that is alive. Every other Kennedy is dead. You are not. I'm trying to make it keep it that way. I'm trying to keep it that way. The more the Kennedys are in the public eye, the more they're likely to die. So I'm actually looking out for you, dude. Now, if you notice, my website actually has me endorsing Ed Markey because Markey is at least the fourth or fifth most progressive senator. I'm eyeing Tammy Baldwin to possibly fit that spot, but anyways, he is a really progressive senator. Why would you want to primary him? In a sense, why would you, if you're really a progressive, which Joseph Kennedy claims to be, why would you try to primary him? It would be the equivalent of if I tried to primary Bernie Sanders. Why? That it would be stupid. The only way a progressive would run for the seat of another progressive is if that previous progressive was retiring. And the thing is, Markey already has a couple primary challengers. I think someone who was a kidnapped child, a labor lawyer who's kind of like a Warren fan, and a person who's an open blue dog Democrat. They haven't even been in the House yet, or the Senate. They've already decided they're a blue dog. But anyways, they are trying to primary Markey because they use the same argument. Markey's been in there for too long. We need a new face to fix the party. Like Marianne Williamson once said, just because you're a new face doesn't mean that you're anything new. You could advocate for literally all the same stuff that, the likes of, you could advocate for the same positions as Joe Biden, but just because you have a younger face, you could try and get away with the fact that, I'm the new progressive guy, because they've done it before. People have done it before. Eric Swalwell, he ran against Pete Stark in, I think, 2011. If I remember correctly, it was 2011. He ran against Pete Stark. Pete Stark was a supporter of Medicare for All, was one of the few atheists in Congress, and that, a couple of other things that made him significant. But he was a staunch progressive in the House. Eric Swalwell walks up and says, "No, I'm more progressive than Pete Stark." "Oh, really? Eric, why is that?" "Because I'm a young boy and he's an old bastard. I am the true progressive in the race." Seth Moulton did the same thing. Like, I think in the 2014 midterms, he did the same thing. He ran for a Massachusetts House seat against a really progressive, older person, then claimed that he was the true progressive, despite the fact that it was verifiably untrue. But people believed him because he was younger. Because usually the bright new face is seen as the next stage of U.S. politics. And sometimes it is. AOC, Rashida Tlaib, even Ayanna Pressley to an extent, even though Ayanna also primaried a progressive member of the House for some reason. I don't know why, but for some reason she did. But, this is pretty much all the stuff that was going on with that. So otherwise, I don't think Kennedy would be a good senator. He can't live up to Bobby, and Bobby was the only Kennedy that I put on the list. Because otherwise the Kennedys are overrated. Everyone's like, "Oh, we like the Kennedys. The Kennedys are so cool." The Kennedys are not cool. They're lame. I think JFK was pretty gay. Unironically saying, like, "Oh, he's gay." I don't know. Only a gay person would have that many affairs with women. And that's why Lee Harvey Oswald assassinated him. He was like, "Wait, you're gay? No!" That's what happened. That's the facts. Look it up. But anyways, now going over to our cheaper people who can get better drugs, Canada. Pierre Natel, a new Democratic member of Parliament, has been kicked out of the New Democratic Party because he was in secret talks with Elizabeth May of the Green Party to try and run on her ballot line. So, yeah. The New Democratic Party isn't really going well with I'm still rooting for the New Democratic Party, but they seem to really, really like kicking members out of the party. One person expressed pro-Palestinian stuff. He gets kicked out of the party and has to run as a Green, and then wins. Okay, to be fair, one of the people was legitimately kicked out because of sexual assault allegations, but, New Democratic Party, you really gotta go strong with the whole trying to beat Trudeau and Scheer. You guys need to work hard to actually try and beat them. You're the biggest left-wing party in Canada. Even the Green Party of Canada isn't even left-wing. They lean a little bit to the left. But they don't actually they're not left-wing. So yeah. New Dems, you gotta be careful with your consistent kicking out of party members. Take the U.S. Democrats can openly disparage their own party, say that members of the party are anti-Semitic, and be against abortion rights. But we don't kick them out, do we? Of course not. Now, here is an update on the 2020 election. Okay, so here's the first update. And I think it's you know what, I'm actually going to save the worst for last. Here's the second best. Stacey Abrams decided that she's not running for president in 2020. Good. I was sick and tired of Stacey Abrams, teasing the media, will I run for president? Will I not run for president? I don't know. But I'm finally glad she officially decided she's not running. She's instead going to focus on ballot initiatives, not ballot initiatives, but voter turnout and voter registration. So yeah, that's what she's going to focus on. Rather than, get run and have an unsuccessful run for the presidency. She should have probably run for Senate. That would have been a whole lot better. It would have been more likelihood of her winning. Like, I hear a lot of these people say, like, there are Senate seats that could flip in 2020. Why are all these people running in these races? And I'm like, yeah, there are some Senate seats that 100% could flip to blue, and, why are Dems purposefully sitting in this Democratic field unless they're doing some malicious thing? This is not like a new thing. A lot of people have had this convo, like Grumpy Bertie Sanders, Niall L. Kim, Plebis Project. A lot of these people have been saying, like, they're going to try and split the ballot on the first ballot. They're going to split the vote on the first ballot. Okay, so the next story actually kind of ties into that. We find out someone actually wasn't trying to split the ballots. Governor Hickenlooper drops out of the presidential race. We lost the breakfast cereal. No! Farewell, cereal. You will be missed. Now, why? Well, I do believe that it means that he's at least somewhat well-intentioned. He's just going to jump into the Senate race where he has a huge lead. And again, that could be beneficial to the Democrats, but when you're not a Democrat and you don't really care if they do well, unless they actually have good people that are part of them doing well, there's nothing else to do. Like if the people, like let's think about it. Let's say the Senate does win and the Democrats win, and their new Senate members are Beto O'Rourke, John Hickenlooper, Steve Bullock. Wow, I'm so excited for these guys. These guys are so amazing. Why wouldn't you want to vote for these guys? Now, Andrew Yang has also tried to be a bit of a good sport in this. Like, well, John, you tried your best. And he even said that he'd campaign for John Hickenlooper if he ran for Senate. Andrew, you're blowing it, man. You were so good. Don't do this. But I get what he's trying to say. Like, party unity. They all gotta sign the unity pledge at one point. To be fair, they haven't all signed the unity pledge yet, but they're inevitably going to at one point, I think. But anyways, now, speaking of the presidential debates and stuff, well, I kind of spoiled what it is, but the debates, as we all know, there's going to be one in September, and the whole contention of who's going to make it is big, because we don't know who's going to make it. Here's the 9 candidates that have made it so far. Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Cory Booker, Robert O'Rourke, Amy Klobuchar, and Andrew Yang. There are 3 candidates that are close to making it, but aren't quite. Julian Castro, Tulsi Gabbard, and Tom Steyer. Who's Tom Steyer, you may ask? You may have forgotten who he was, but Tom Steyer is a, quote, liberal billionaire who has donated to liberal causes in the past. I mean, when I say liberal, I mean, like, it's a big complicated in the term liberal, like the American term, like social liberal kind of thing. But anyways, he has made a whole thing about being the anti-Trump billionaire, that he's going to impeach Trump and blah, blah, blah. Well, he recently announced that he got the 130,000 individual donors needed to make it into the next debate, and is only one qualifying poll away from making it in. And everybody's pissed because they have proven that they are screwing progressives once again. Because here's the thing. For this one, they only accept polls from certain DNC-affiliated news networks, CNN, Des Moines Register. They even include Fox News polls. Those are the only polls that count. But Tulsi Gabbard has actually made more than 2% in a lot of polls. It just so happens that those polls are the ones that don't count. So is Julian Castro, but I mean, they both made in decent amount of polls, but everybody's paying more attention to Tulsi because Tulsi's more of the outsider. Whereas Tom Steyer is just impeach Trump, Trump bad. Now, if Steyer makes it in, that's 10 candidates. And if it's 10 candidates, and no one else gets to qualify, it's probably just going to be one night debate, and nobody else is going to be in. Many people have been wondering, why is Steyer the guy who gets in? Why, what about Steyer himself makes it so that he is the candidate that gets in? Well, it turns out that there's some iffy things, starting, of course, with his email list. He started his whole thing as impeach Trump. Like, he would just be like, yo, sign up in this letter to impeach Trump. Because that's how it works. But anyways, he would, that email list he obviously used for his presidential campaign so that he could just spam emails left and right. And he has spent, a lot of money he spent a lot of money on this huge ad campaign, just getting people to know him, impeach Trump, impeach Trump. Also, he sells bumper stickers and other merchandise of just impeach Trump. Not impeach Trump, Tom2020.com. Just saying impeach Trump. And it turns out some of that money from those products may actually be going into his campaign. You smell that? It smells like bullshit. Because it is. Just is. There's no way that Tom Steyer... just think about it. It might happen again. It might happen again that, the candidates... the candidate that actually has a lot of grassroots momentum will be kicked out of the debate stage. It has happened before, a la Mike Gravel, and it might happen again with Tulsi Gabbard. There's a whole petition going around basically saying, you need to include these specific polls because these specific polls actually count. They should count. And I mean, if Castro and Gabbard were included, that would make 12 candidates, and you could easily split it to 6 candidates a night. So, it's a good idea, I guess. I mean, I'm fine with Julian making it. I mean, I guess he earned it. Technically, yeah, he did earn it. It's kind of like that whole thing about Steve Bullock in the first debate. Technically, he deserved in the debate. He deserved to be there, but he also kind of didn't. But it's weird. It's it's a thing. I really do think that it's weird to some extent. But anyways, that's because, the whole thing about, everyone hates the progressives and blah, blah, blah. But anyways, let's move on to the smaller candidate of the day, Henry F. Hughes. Henry F. Hughes, you may have remembered. I've talked about him before in either my 2012 minor Democratic candidates thing or in my other 2016 Democratic candidates. But either way, he's pretty much known for being a conservative Democrat. That's his thing. He's run for other offices under other things, I think. He stated, keep healthcare, keep healthcare private. His biggest thing is, I am the only pro-life Democrat running in the 2020 United States presidential election. I stand with John F. Kennedy, Dr. Martin Luther King, Lyndon B. Johnson, Jimmy Carter, and Bill Clinton before he turned tail. I am running for president because life begins at conception and cries out for protection. And it's old because he's stated, it says here, like, I need 65,000 individual donors to make it into the debate. And I'm like, you don't need that much anymore, buddy. It's like Ami Horowitz. He that was a thing he tried, but it didn't pan out. So anyways, let's move on to the main topic of the video. It's something I kind of dabbled in my last video on, but I was also kind of struck for time for this one, so this is going to be the topic that I think is decent enough. The Tulsi Warren Civil War. What do I mean by that? Well, if you know anything about the things, like if you know anything about the current left-wing political sphere, you know that there's a bit of a divide between people who like Warren and people who like Tulsi. Some people completely dismiss Warren. Some people completely dismiss Tulsi. Some people completely dismiss both. Some people completely there's a whole lot of things about the Tulsi-Warren Civil War. But inevitably, the thing is, I'm a bit of a fence sitter on this one, because in my view, both Tulsi and Warren have positives and negatives. And each of the positives and negatives are kind of similar in some regards. I wouldn't necessarily say that I do think one of these women are better than the other, obviously. But, I mean, people who completely dismiss Warren or completely dismiss Gabbard are both wrong. I think they're both wrong. But I do find myself aligning more with one group than the other. Now, what do I mean by that? Okay, so let me explain some of the reasons why some people completely dismiss Tulsi. For one, her conservative past is seen as just way too much. Like, there's just no nuance. Just, she was a conservative in the past. The end. There's nothing else you can say. Now, why do I think that that's not a good argument? Well, because Elizabeth Warren has been a Republican for a while. She has been a Republican for at least until the 90s. So yeah, that's a thing that, like, you can't just pretend that, oh, that's different. Well, I mean, technically you could say it is different because Massachusetts Republican would be different than a, I guess a Hawaii conservative? It's a lot of different nuances in some regards, I guess. The biggest thing that is kind of the dividing point for progressives with regards to Warren is one simple thing, like at least among the two women. Tulsi has endorsed Bernie in 2016. Warren did not. Now, that is a big point of contention. I argue that it is not a good argument to use the endorsement game in any regards. Well, I mean, not in any regards, but for the most part, you have to actually think about the endorsement game, because if you play the endorsement game 100%, everybody loses. Like, if you say, like, oh, you didn't endorse this progressive, ergo, you're canceled, literally every progressive in the entire United States would be canceled. Bernie didn't endorse Tim Canova during his second match in 2018. Bernie didn't endorse Cynthia Nixon in the 2018 New York gubernatorial race. Bernie didn't endorse John K. Fetterman in the Senate race. He endorsed one of his opponents, who was a corporate Democrat. Tulsi endorsed Phil Murphy over Alan Grayson in the Florida Senate race in 2016. Mike Gravel has endorsed Al Gore over Bill Bradley in the 2000 presidential election. You're gonna get at least one person who doesn't endorse the candidate that you don't think you should endorse. You're always gonna get that one person who doesn't endorse the candidate that you want to endorse. But you need to understand, like, the endorsement game is tricky. Everybody loses. Like, are you really going to throw away 30 years of someone's record just because they didn't endorse one candidate that you liked? I used to be that way. I used to say Warren was canceled because she didn't endorse Bernie. Now I say, no, that's stupid. You can have disagreements with Warren on voting. I argue that if you argue against Warren for her record and actual votes that she's done, you could make some arguments. But you could also make arguments on Tulsi and her votes. For example, Tulsi did the whole vote where she voted against that big BDS resolution. She's co-sponsoring another BDS resolution to try and make up for it, but overall, she did vote for that one piece of resolution. She did vote for that one resolution that would inevitably be bad for BDS because it delegitimizes it in a sense. You see, my whole point with Warren and Gabbard is that they're both flawed. They have done votes and co-sponsors and other kinds of stuff that I think are inevitably bad. But I think that if you line up the two candidates in a row and you actually analyze both of their records, you will discover that one person has less flaws than the other. And of course, the person that I am saying and insinuating is Tulsi. I do have to believe Tulsi is a better candidate than Warren. She's more principled, she's more unwavering, she's better on a lot of policies, she's more specific on a lot of policies. Like, for example, Warren's big blind spot is foreign policy. Tulsi's had some blind spot votes with regards to the Israel-Palestine stuff. But for the most part, Tulsi is really good on foreign policy, like, exceptionally good. I mean, we had that whole green militarism thing. I mean, that's a lot of the stuff. But anyways, in all honesty, Tulsi's a better candidate. But if you say that, oh, I'm not going to support Tulsi because she had a conservative past, or I can't support Warren because Warren didn't endorse Bernie in 2016, then I think you're both liars. You're both terrible. You're not terrible, but like, you're both not thinking 100%. Hypothetically, if either of these two women were to be the Democratic nominee, I would vote for them. But, asterisk, unless I find out there was some shady business that made them the nominee. Like, if the Democrats were like, you picked Tulsi to be the nominee, and snubbed Bernie and ruined his chances again, I would have been like, whoa, hold on, bro. Not voting for you, Tulsi. You see, I use Tulsi in this scenario because usually it's Warren in this scenario, but I'm just using Tulsi to give people devil's advocate. But anyways, that's pretty much all I have to say on the Tulsi-Warren Civil War. Tulsi is better, but you gotta analyze the facts and analyze that Tulsi isn't perfect. I used to think Tulsi was 100% perfect and nothing was wrong with her. And I'm like, well, she's still second best candidate, but, she's not as much as I thought she was. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report.